and welcome to episode 3 of the She.Must.Knit podcast. My name is Erin, and thank you so much for joining me today and spending some of your time with me. How was your week? Did you have a crafty week? I had a pretty good week. I've mentioned in the last 2 episodes that I've been preparing for some trunk shows and some fiber shows this month, and my first one is going to be at the Knitting Basket with Angie in Rosemont tomorrow. And I got everything done. Yesterday I packed everything up. It's in bins. It's all ready to put in the car. So I've had some time this week to knit, which has been wonderful. So what am I going to share with you today? I have some progress on my stripes and stranded socks because they are addicting. I have 2 new projects that I've cast on. I know that sounds crazy, but whatever. And then I have my new collection from the fabric that you chose. Last week I showed you 2 fabrics and you guys chose one, and I have the new collection to go with that fabric. So let's get started. I'm just going to have a quick sip of my tea like usual. I'm back to my maple rooibos tea because I am in ration mode. I mentioned last week that I drank all the tea from my cupboard and I'm waiting for a new shipment, and it has not come yet, and so I am trying to eke out every little last leaf of my tea. So there we go, we're all set. What are we going to start with? We are going to start with my stripes and stranded socks. So I've been showing these for the last 2 weeks because this pattern is just so much fun to knit. I'm really enjoying it. These are the stripes and stranded socks by Carmen of the New Leaf podcast. And I don't actually feel like I worked on these very much this week, but I guess it's just when you're working on them, they're so much fun that you just want to keep going. And so I actually made a fair amount of progress, I think. So I have got now the foot done. The foot is done on my socks. I've done up to the heel and I popped the heel in, and I am working up on the leg now. In the pattern, Carmen uses a German short row heel, and this is the first time that I've done this heel, and I actually quite liked it. It was enjoyable to do. I feel like I would be able to very quickly memorize how to put it into another sock. So if I can get the numbers to work for my foot, I could see using this heel again. I usually have to tweak the numbers on my heels and my socks because I like a different different fit on my foot and on my leg for socks. So the way Carmen has worked this pattern is that there's a small size and a larger size, and the numbers for those sizes are much bigger than what you would normally use for socks to accommodate for the color work. So I started my foot with the smaller size that she gave, and then right when I got to the heel, before I started the heel, and I went back to my smaller needles. So you work the toe and the heel on your smaller needles, and then you work the color work section on the bigger needles. So right before I went back to the smaller size and started the heel, I increased on this side half of the difference between the small size and the large size. And what that does is it gives me some extra rows because it's a short row heel. It gives me some extra rows, gives me a little bit deeper of a heel. And then when I joined in the round, or before I joined in the round, when I got up to the top of the heel, I added the other half of that difference, so that now when I'm working up the leg, I'm working with the numbers from the larger size, and that will give me a bigger leg. I don't like a tight leg. I don't find them comfortable, and I know with color work, because it is it's a less forgiving fabric, and that's why you're using bigger needles than normal. I didn't want a tight leg, so I'm using the bigger size. So hopefully that will work out. We will see. I might not end up making a bigger, as tall of a leg as I usually do. I think Carmen actually suggests in the pattern to do a shorter color work section and then a longer cuff to make up the rest of the length so that you have that stretch at the top of the leg. So I'm still really enjoying this pattern. You can see where my little narwhal is. See my little hello, there he is, he's so cute. That's where I was when I showed these to you last time. So I've added in all these new color work charts. I'm still really enjoying picking out the charts, And I think for the rest of this sock, I'm going to be using different charts all the way through. So I'm not going to repeat any of these charts up the leg. Now with my second sock, I might repeat the charts or some of the charts, but put them in different places so that they're still kind of different. So we'll have to see when we get there. I'm hoping I might. Okay. I don't want to promise I'm going to finish this sock this week because I'm still doing prep after this weekend, and who knows. But I would love to finish. I would love to finish this sock by next week. That would be awesome. One thing I will say about the color work, I've mentioned before that I'm not really a color work knitter. I don't want to say I'm not comfortable with it, but it's just not, it's not my thing, right? Like I don't feel at total ease when I'm doing color work. What I have found really helpful in terms of the tension, if you watch Ellie from Skeindeer Knits, she does color work like no tomorrow. She's constantly doing color work, and amazing color work. And what she has suggested, and what I've heard other people who are doing color work right now, because color work sweaters are like the thing, is that as you knit, you kind of give it a little pull, give it a little stretch after each row. And I've been doing that, and I have found it really, really helpful. It's kind of counterintuitive because you think, oh my god, I'm gonna like pull these stitches all out of whack, right? But I am finding that like the tension ends up looking really, really even, and especially if you've done color work with magic loop before, or even I guess double pointed needles would do the same thing. Sometimes along that edge where the needles meet, you get kind of wonky stitches. And I'm finding that doing that little tug every row, I do it every time. So I work across this needle and I give it a little tug, and then I work around across the other needle and I give it a little tug. And I'm finding it's really helpful for keeping things even, keeping your floats loose, but not too loose, and then just making it like along that crease, making it really, really even. So I would suggest doing that if you're doing color work. It seems like it would kind of mess with your knitting, but it really doesn't. So I am on the leg now. I'm working up the leg. I might try and work on these a bit today because I've got all my work done, right? So we might see. I might sit down and work on these today. And yeah, so hopefully I'll have some more progress for on those for you. Just as a reminder, I'm using for my striping yarn, because with this pattern you use one self-striping yarn and then one contrast yarn to do the color work, so it makes them look way more complicated than they are. I'm using White Birch Fiber Arts in Electric Slide, and then my contrast is Volmise, and I don't know what color this is. And speaking of this one, White Birch Fiber Arts, and this pattern, one of the podcasts that I really enjoy watching is Crafty from Relatively Crafty, and on her podcast this week she got some yarn. She got a whole bunch of White Birch Fiber Arts in a D-stash at amazing prices. Christy, you are a lucky little duck, because I love White Birch Fiber Arts. If I wasn't on my stash challenge this year, I would be snapping up all the White Birch Fiber Arts. But she got a color very similar to this, and she was saying how she was thinking of casting on these socks with it. And I totally think you should, Christy. You totally need to make these socks. You love making socks, and these are really fun socks. So do it, okay? Okay. So, next project. And speaking of Christy, this is just perfect. Okay. In her group, she tends to have quarterly knit-alongs. So she does these seasonal knit-alongs. She had a autumn accessories one and a winter one where you use thicker yarns, and she had a summer sock one. And for spring, she's doing a spring stuffy cowl. So you just have to make a little stuffy, doesn't matter how big, what size, what kind, knit, crochet, whatever. You make a stuffy and you can submit it into her cowl. So I decided I wanted to make a stuffy. I haven't made one in a while. I actually used to make quite a lot of stuffies. I find them fun. I love how designers use basic stitches to do their shaping, and like you do these knits and purls and increases and decreases, and then boom, you have this like shaped head. Like it just, toy shaping just boggles my brain. I don't know how you figure this stuff out. But I decided I wanted to do a stuffy. And just bringing this back to my Crafty Bingo Challenge, one of my goals on my bingo card is to knit, or to use 5 indie patterns that I've already purchased that are sitting in my library unused, and to actually knit them up. I know we all tend to do that. We buy the pretty patterns and then we don't use the pretty patterns, and I'm trying to use ones that I have so that I've made use of those patterns. And so I looked through my Ravelry library. I love that feature, how you can look through your patterns based and just narrow it down to ones you've purchased. And I looked through my patterns and looked through toys, and there was one in there that I was like, oh, I really love that pattern. I bought it 2016 as part of the indie gift along. They do that I think that this past year was the 3rd year they've done it, and a whole bunch of indie designers get together and they put their patterns on sale for a very short time, and then there's a knit along, and it's right before Christmas, and you can get all these gifts done, and it's a lot of fun. So there was a pattern that I bought as part of this that has just been sitting in my library, and so I thought, I am going to make this pattern. And one of the great things about doing this pattern is it will then complete that box for me. This will be my 5th pattern that I've worked this year out of my library. And so it works all around. I get to participate in Christie's Cal, and I get to check off another bingo box, so it's like awesome. Awesomeness all around. So I'm going to show you my little stuffy, my progress on my stuffy. Now, I'm going to show it to you this way first and see if you can guess what it is, because it kind of looks funny, but then I'll show you, and then I'll tell you what it is, okay? So here is my stuffy. Can you guess what it is? Anyone? Anyone? When I showed this to Avery, she thought it was a little boot, and it kind of looks like a little boot. But are you ready? Okay, here, now can you guess what it is? Right? It's a little wiener puppy. Oh my goodness. It is going to be a little Dachshund. The pattern is called Dashing Dachshund by Ella Austin. And I love Dachshunds. They bring me a lot of joy when I just see them walking around the street. I don't think we could ever have one. I don't think their personalities would mesh with our household, but I still love them, and I smile every time I see one. So this will be my way of having a little wiener dog in our house. So pattern is Dashing Dachshund, and I will pop a picture up so that you can see the original. And then this is mine. Now, you might be noticing something. Color work here. I think I said last week, I say it all the time, I'm not really a color work knitter. It's not something that I'm very comfortable with, and you're all thinking you're a big fat liar because you're doing a toy with color work. Yeah, I know. But it's just a little bit. And you might have noticed that the color work that I'm doing here is different than the one in the pattern. When I looked through the project pages, there was actually quite a lot of people who switched out the color work, and I decided to do that as well. The one in the original pattern was fine, but it didn't speak to me as much as some other ones, and I have some stitch books, so I thought I would look through my stitch books and see if there's one I like better. And that's what I did, and I'll just show you quickly. This is the book I used, and you might be thinking, that's not a book. What's going on there? Yeah, this is just the jacket. I've had this book for many, many years, and the cover just finally popped off, and it actually works out okay because I find it easier to use in this format because I can just kind of find the chart I want and fold it where I need it, and there you go. And this book I quite like for if you just need a simple motif. Like, I think there are other books now, especially some more of the modern stitch books that really have some interesting stitch motifs in them. This one is really good if you just want a very simple, very basic motif. They have motifs from all around the world. They give you the stitch number, they give you the row count, they give you like very easily where you could see like how many colors you need, what application it would be good for, like cuffs or like a centerpiece in a sweater or like a border. So it is good for that. And I found, when I went through that book, I found a little motif that I liked, and I plopped it in, and I think the scale works. I think the scale works for him, and it will be a really cute little sweater on him. I think that they look like little poppies, but that might just be because I love poppies, and it might be because of the colors I chose, but he's just gonna be my little wiener dog in his little poppy sweater. So I finished the color work, and the same goes as I just mentioned with the stripes and stranded socks. I've been doing that thing where after every half row. So I work across this needle, and then I give it a little tug, and then I work across this needle and give it a little tug. And I think you can tell, like, everything just looks really, really even. And I'm really pleased with how how it looks across where the needles meet. Usually that gets all lumpy and bumpy for me, but it's just, everything looks really, really smooth. And I really think that tip, Ellie's tip, where you just kind of give it a little, I think she calls it like blocking as you go, is you just give it a little tug. I think that really, really helps. Like, you would think that it was gonna put your stitches all out of whack, but it really doesn't. So he is done, almost done. His sweater is done. I just have to join in the brown yarn again. I have to finish his little backside, and then it's just the little bits and pieces. So I just have to do his little ears and his little legs and stuff him and give him a little face. One of the other changes that I'm going to be doing with this pattern is I believe it's written so that all the little bits and pieces are knit separately and then sewed on. And I'm going to try, I've done a few patterns in the last 2 years or so where, especially with like Susan B. Anderson, where you pick up on your knitting and knit down from your toy, and so you're not then having to sew all those pieces on, you're kind of like attaching them as you go. And I think I'm going to do it that way. If I haven't looked at how the legs are written, but if I can, especially for the ears, I'm pretty sure I can do that, and the tail, I'm pretty sure I can do that. But for whatever pieces I can do that with, I am going to pick up the stitches and knit down. I would love to have this done for next week. And I know I've said I want to have, you know, one of the socks done, and I want to have this done, and you're thinking, where are you going to get all this time? You have a show to prepare for, and I know, and apparently time is just going to stop for me, but I would love to have this little guy done for next week. I think he's going to be adorable, and then I can enter him in the cow. So yeah, and then he won't just be like this little flat sausage. He'll be an actual thing. So I'm looking forward to that. You will see him again soon. So that. The other nice thing about that pattern, it's great for scraps. So I just pulled some yarn. I'm trying not to buy yarn this year. So I just pulled some yarn out of my fingering bin. So this one is almost a full skein. I started another project with it and just didn't continue with it. So I used a little bit of this. It's a really, really pretty red. I think it's 5 moons yarn. This one is some fiddle knits, and I thought he made a really, really good Dachshund color. And then I have some stroll. This is part of my, I have a bin for like toes and heel contrast for socks, and this is from that. Actually, all of these could be used for that. But so those are the yarns that I'm using for my little Dachshund. And that's that on him, and hopefully you'll see him again soon. So next project is another new project that I've cast on, and this is actually a project that it's a pattern that I've made before. I made one for Avery, and I've decided to make it again. I really, really like this pattern. Another one of my bingo goals is to make 3 knits, gift knits for kids, and there are 3 kids that I know in my life that I would like to make some sweaters for, and this is going to be one of them. My friend has a little girl, and her birthday is in June, and so I thought April would be a great time to cast this on. I don't expect to finish it. I just wanted to get it started, and you might find that with my projects, I will start a lot at the same time, but it's just I have certain goals about what I want to finish and how long and which things I want to work on each month. So even though I might not finish this month, I'd like to have it started so that I know it will be done for June. So before I show you what I've started, because I just cast it on yesterday, so it's not very big, I'm going to show you the one that is that I made before, so that I can talk a little bit about the pattern, because I think this is a fabulous pattern. The pattern is called Little Sock Arms by Stephanie Lotvin, and I really love her patterns. And I was fortunate enough that last year in the fall I was able to test knit this pattern, and so I made it for Avery. And so I'll just show you, this is the finished version here. And one of the things I love about this pattern is that it truly is great for any kid. There are a lot of designers that I love and that I love their patterns, and I knit their patterns a ton when Avery was little. But now that she's older, I find their patterns suit younger kids, and then there's other designers whose patterns tend to suit older kids. And one of the things with this pattern is I think it would be adorable on a little baby, and I think it would be awesome on, you know, an older kid. Like, I think the pattern goes up to a size 12, and I think it would work for any kid, boy or girl. You could really customize the yarns that you use to suit, you know, their likes and personalities. I think it can work for anybody. So I really, really love that about this pattern. The other thing I really love about this pattern is that it's a great use of those single skeins of sock yarn that you have in your stash, especially the arms. So the reason it's called Little Sock Arms is because it's designed to use a self-striping yarn on the sleeves. So it's a way to use your self-striping sock yarn on something that's not socks. And I think even up to the biggest size, you need, I think one skein of sock yarn works up to even the biggest size. And for the body of the sweater, you would choose either like a solid or a semi-solid or a speckle. The speckle, I think, gives it a little bit of a crazier look, but Avery loves bright colors, so I went with a speckle. But even with the body, up to about a size 8, you can get away with one skein of, I don't know if you can hear the siren, we're on a route, so we'll just let him go by, but you can use one skein of sock yarn for the body up to about a size 8. So I think that is just an awesome way to use some of the sock skeins that you have in your stash. So yeah, so this is the one that I made for Avery. It's a size 4 with a bit of extra length. And then the one that I am making for my friend's little girl, she's 3. She'll be 3 in June. So I'm going to be making her a size 4 as well, because the size 4 that I made Avery still fits her. And she's going to be 7 at the end of this year, and I actually have plans to make Avery another one in the next size up so that she has one to grow into. So I think a size 4 will work for my friend's little girl. So this is what I have started. The yarns that I chose some Knit Picks yarn. I bought this before the beginning of the year, and they have a line called Hawthorne Speckle. So you can kind of get the look of those indie dyed speckled yarns at Knit Picks prices. So, and then I paired it with a Felici. So this is actually kind of like an interesting comparison. So I'm using the Hawthorne Speckle and the Felici, and for the size 4, I can get away with a 50-gram ball for the sleeves. I don't even need a full ball. And so this is going to be under $20 for a little sweater for my friend's little girl. And then you have the other spectrum with Avery sweater, where, you know, a skein of white birch fiber arts and a skein, I think the main, I think this one here was a Vivid that I got in a yarn club. So you can do the math, you know, 2 skeins of indie dyed yarn. You can go that route, or you can go Knit Picks route, and still I anticipate having a really cute little sweater. So these are the colors that I've chose. I think those will coordinate really nicely. There's the reds and pinks that are in here. The darker speckle in here is more of a teal, and this is more of a blue, but I still think it will coordinate nicely. So those are the yarns that I've chose for that. And then one of the modifications I'm going to do is Stephanie provides, for the 3 smallest sizes in the pattern, she provides kind of an extra little instruction section for adding a buttoned placket at the back, because little babies tend to have giant heads in proportion for their bodies, and just so that the neckline will easily go over their heads, she's done a little back placket. And I've decided to do that same back placket on the size 4, even though it's not written for that, just because I really love the flexibility of having a little buttoned opening on pullover sweaters. Like, you never know, kids' sizes or kids' head sizes can vary so much, and especially because this is a gift and I can't try it on. Like with Avery's, I was able to try on as I was doing the neckband. I was able to try it on her and make sure that it would go over her head. And I don't really have the ability to do that with my friend's little girl, and I don't want to make this sweater and give it to them and then be like, we can't get it over her head, right? So I've decided to add that back placket that's written for the smaller sizes into the size 4. I don't anticipate it being very difficult, but I will update you on that as I go. So this is my progress so far. I started this yesterday. I had a little bit of time yesterday, because I finished all my work, I got everything packed up, and I was like, it was like 1 o'clock, and I had 2 hours before Avery was getting home, and I was like, oh, I'm going to cast on my project. It was so nice. It was so nice to be able to do that. So this is my progress so far. Nothing too exciting. I just have to do basically the stocking net. I've got the ribbing done, and now I have to do stocking net for a total of about 10.5 inches from the cast on edge. So yeah, this is just going to be mindless knitting, which I think will actually be really, really good right now, because with the shows coming up and with all the prep that I'm doing, it's really nice to have some knitting that I don't have to concentrate on, because right now my other projects, the stripes and stranded socks, I kind of need, I mean, they're easy and they're fun, but I still need to concentrate on the charts and what I'm doing, and the little Dachshund, like it's going to take some concentration. So it'll be really nice having this project where I just literally just have to knit in the round for 10 inches. And then the nice thing about, because it's a bottom up sweater, is once I get those 10 inches done, you start doing like the arm stuff, and it just kind of goes by really, really fast once you get up there. So I probably won't show this again for another week or two, because it'll take some time to get up to that arm section. But I think once I get the body done, and maybe once I get the sleeve started, I think once the body's done and I get the sleeve started, I'll show this one again. Okay, so that is that project. So I'm excited to get that done and to knock off. It won't complete that bingo box, but it will give me 1 check mark out of 3 for that bingo box. So I'm excited about that. So those are my 3 knitting projects. So what I have left is my collection for this week. Last week I showed 2 fabrics that you guys got to choose from, and you chose the bold floral ones, the one with the black background and the really bright, vibrant, like pinks and oranges and yellows, and that's the one I went with. And I just have to say, I love how this collection turned out, and I hope you do too. So I actually did 4 bags. I did 2 smaller bags, and I did 2 larger bags this time. I had enough fabric that I could do some larger bags. So I'll show the smaller bags first. And I did different contrast bottoms. So I have, here's the fabric, and I did a pink contrast bottom and a yellow contrast bottom. And I really think those turned out, I really, really love how this fabric turned out. So that's those ones. And then I also did the same contrast bottoms, or same colors, with some larger bags. So I've got the pink contrast and the yellow contrast. So I'm very happy with those. I hope you like them too. I think they're really, really pretty, especially for the season. They remind me of the warm weather, which will hopefully be coming. We are supposed to be getting an ice storm this weekend. What the heck? It's the mid-April. I think I was watching a weather report on the ice storm to see where it was going to affect, and they were saying that we're not going to get consistently warm weather until like mid-May. Womp womp. I am so ready for some warmer weather, but at least the fabrics make me think of tropical locations and warm weather. Now the yarn for this week I did a little differently. I did 3 sock sets. I didn't do any sock blanks this time because I'm dyeing up all my sock blanks for my shows, but hopefully sock blanks will come back in the coming weeks. So I did something a little differently for these ones. I did kind of like a half and half. So I did half of the skein, the kind of the bright pinks and yellows and oranges, and then I did the other half of the skein. It's kind of a dimensional black. It's like a black navy, so it's not just a flat black. So it's more of a diamond. You can kind of see how it's not just a straight dark, rigid black. And I did them half and half so that hopefully these skeins, I don't know, I mean it all depends on tension, but they might microstripe. Who knows? I just thought it would be fun to try something different. So those are the skeins there. And then for the mini skeins, I thought I would offer a choice. So I'm going to do a choice of either this kind of purpley color here, a pink, and a navy, and you get to choose which one that you would like with the sock skein. So I should have those up in the shop. By the time you see this, they should be up in the shop. They should be ready to look at. And then I have my 2 new fabrics. So I really enjoyed how last week I gave you a choice. And you were able to tell me which fabric you really loved, and that's the one I worked with. I thought that was really fun. So this week, I have these printed sheep as the first choice. And let me just open this up. Okay, printed sheep. I think the colors in there will make some really, really pretty yarn. And then I also have these little owls, little hooties. I think those would make really, really fun colors too. So those are the choices this week. You can comment below. Let me know which one you would like to see, and I'll do that up in the collection. I usually start to work on those on Monday, so I'll see over the weekend what you guys pick, and then I'll go with that. So that'll be fun. So that's all I have for you this week. I really hope you enjoyed this episode. I hope you enjoyed seeing the projects that I was working on, and I hope you have a crafty week and get to make all the things, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.